right, you're welcome to Nigeria Today. An excellent morning to you. My name is Benjamin Peters. We just want to quickly apologize for coming slightly late on the broadcast. Once again, you're welcome, and today we're taking a look at a very serious issue. Nigeria is our country, and like the president said, we cannot negotiate the sovereignty of this country. But there's been pockets of agitations, especially from the Niger Delta region, apart from the IPOB and all that. And so today we're very concerned. It's in the news. It dominated most of the daily papers as at yesterday and of course last week. There is a group, a militant group that calls themselves Adaka Boro Avengers. In a short form, ABA, Adaka Boro Avengers. And they have declared August 1, of course, declaring the Niger Delta as a republic come August 1. And let me just tell you, they've ordered Northerners and Westerners to move, change their location. They've issued quick notice to the military and the agencies. And of course, they also were very proud to say that they have foreign support in terms of logistics and all that. And of course, a lot of Nigerians have been reacting. There have also been conflicting reports as to whether the government is negotiating with militants. So there's so much confusion. But the military came out just recently and said they will take hardline position if the militants does not agree to some of the negotiating principles. And interestingly, of course, one of the very popular group, MEND, have also dissociated itself from this recent bombings, and they've also called on the federal government for a roundtable discussion. There is another group currently run by one Tony Ranta, and they have also called on the president to address certain issues, and that is, of course, the Marine School in Port Harcourt, in the Niger Delta, and a number of other issues as well. But again, we have a fundamental security issue at hand, and so we're looking at the August 1 declaration of the Niger Delta Republic. With me in the studio is one man representing one organization that has been on the forefront of championing possibly the cause of the Niger Deltans through the Constitution. His name is Barrister Tony Inadi. Interestingly, he's the Secretary General of the Lower Niger Congress. Mr. Tony, you're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
To Nigeria Today. I'm sure you will put paid to some of these issues.
Yeah.
We have, the government have described them as militant, internet militants. Okay, we've not seen, there are so many groups coming up in the Niger Delta. But first, what is your take on this declaration? Who gave them the right to declare a Niger Delta Republic? Are they in the position to do that?
Well, we are, faced with a situation in which a matter that should have been addressed a long time ago by what has become known now as restructuring, has been allowed to fester over so many years that it's now more like Nigeria not being in place. Everybody's thinking and working at what to do with their own portion, because the constitution that the instrument that federates us is gone. It's not in place. It's dead. The Constitution 1999, and if we were to interpret that, because what I think we should be doing now is to interpret what is going on in that region. Anybody can go to the internet and make a declaration, but there are people taking on the military in the territory. There are people preventing Shell and Mobil and Egypt from operating freely. Those ones are not internet. And if we were to proceed like doctors do, I will go from diagnosis to prescription, to treatment, in that order. The diagnosis of the situation is to find out what the people are saying, the people doing these things. Both the ones throwing the bombs and the ones blowing the pipelines and the ones declaring all kinds of things, you know. They are simply questioning the constitution of Nigeria as it operates in their territory. One has been sufficiently involved with them over the years to be able to say that. And they are not alone in questioning the constitution of Nigeria. The Yoruba found themselves questioning the constitution of Nigeria when Moshood Abiola won an election, and for reasons that have not been explained to date, the election was annulled. And then bringing the Yoruba to the point where they openly threatened to leave the Union. Prior to that, there was the situation in the 60s where the word Araba came from. The North found itself in a situation where it was, feeling it should leave the Union. Then, of course, in the aftermath of that Araba, we saw Eastern Nigeria engaged in a war of wanting to leave the Union, which they called Biafra. So all the way from that time to now, the people who preside over the Union keep telling us repeatedly that Nigeria was not negotiable and that anybody who resists any issue will be committing an offense. Whereas the whole world had moved on from that position, there's something called sovereignty. That sovereignty vests not in the government, but in the various people that constitute Nigeria. Because in 1914, it wasn't your consent and my consent, it wasn't our consensus to go into a union. It was something the British did for their own purpose. And from that point to now, the opportunity has not been given to those who are trapped in this experiment to either validate it by referendum or to dismantle it if it's not working. And we're simply saying that now that it's come to where people are, just saying that it cannot remain so, it will be irresponsible to continue to pretend that nothing is going on. Okay. And we see the consequences. Just a few days ago, the central bank governor was before the Senate, telling them that if things continue like this, we might come to where the federal government is not able to pay salaries from October. How long? How much more should we allow it to degenerate before we begin to take on the issues? Therefore, back to the matter of diagnosis. The people who are the Avengers, let's start with them, because they made a specific demand at the time they began their campaigns. They said they wanted the restoration of the sovereignty of old Eastern Nigeria. They've gone ahead to say that it is by the means of a referendum that they're not looking at a situation where they overrun everybody and chase people out of government house, And anybody who wants to engage that issue of their demand and what to do with discussing it should take it from that first from that perspective of what they have said. If in saying so, you look beyond how they put it to how all of those who have been shouting about restructuring all over the place, because what they call it resource control or restructuring or regional autonomy, which the Yoruba had championed all this while, they're all saying the same thing. Let us look at the terms of our relationship, of our union, so that we can...
Now, Mr. Tony,
yes.
The President and the present government is making attempts to negotiate and find a resolution. The President has promised to go back to the template of the amnesty program set up by late Yaradua.
Yes.
Of course, it would interest you to know also that in the northeastern part of the country, efforts are also being made to discover oil so that this whole thing does not become whatever. But the President is trying to address some of these issues so that, just to placate and make the Niger Delta agitators, shed their swords.
It is that approach that has brought us to this sorry state.
Are you saying now that
The people,
negotiation will not work?
No. The people doing the action have said what they want, what they are looking for. Nobody wants to address that.
But men is dissociating itself.
Men fought their own fight and went to amnesty and then forgot what the fight was all about. These people, I'm sure you heard when they dissociated, when they expressly told those who, they praised those who had fought in the past, yes, and said, look, you've done your bit, but somehow you've cashed out, more or less, on this occasion, that they are not fighting for pipeline contracts, that they are not fighting for amnesty to, that they are fighting for the restoration of their ownership rights over their territory. And if they have to be in any union, to be in that union according to how they agree with those who come from outside the place. That's simply what they're saying. So those who are talking about going to review amnesty program and going to negotiate with one group in one corner, the people say the reason why I'm relaying back what they have said in the open. They said they are refusing to go to any dialogue in one corner because the kind of dialogue they're talking about is a comprehensive one in which the whole country will have to come to redefine the ownership and control structures of the union. Okay. Ownership in their own case being who owns the land, who owns that papa's land of theirs, such as to be able to give out interest to third parties, Shell, Mobil, and all the others who have to come to extract the oil and gas, and leaving the environment damaged, leaving them in the peripheries of whatever had to be done. So this is what they are saying. And if anybody is not engaging it from that perspective and hoping to just go gather some people like they've done several times in the past, Asari and his group went doing their bit when Obasanjo was there. They were called aside. There was some kind of settlement, but the issue was not addressed. Then the one when it came to men being formed, again, everybody danced around the matter and left the main issue and went doing amnesty. Of course, some people made money, but the issue of who owns what was not addressed.
Okay, if you just join us, this is Nigeria Today, and of course we have Barrister Tony Nadi, is the Secretary General of the Lower Niger Congress in Nigeria here, and we're looking at the declaration of Niger Delta Republic come August 1 by a militant group. They call themselves Adaka Boro Avengers, and this calls for serious concern. They've issued several ultimatums, and action needs we need to address some of this issue. Now, Barrister Tony Nadi.
No title, just
as a lawyer,
yes.
I noticed that you kept on going back to the Constitution.
Sure.
Now, at this stage of this country
yes.
right now,
yes.
do you think that with the effort being made or geared towards economic emancipation, economic recovery,
yes.
should we be talking about sitting down and begin to because that will create another problem.
There is Nigeria has to be in place before you begin to talk about the economy of Nigeria. The issue on the table is one in which more than 70% of those you call Nigerians, those who are supposed to be building that economy with you, are saying they want out because they are being oppressed, they are being killed. And
do they have the structures on their own to stand on their own, even if?
Why not? What if Nigeria, we say we are 170, 180 million. The eastern side, let me use a map I have here to show you the kind of thing that it looks like. Here, for the purpose of illustration, we have 12 states here that pass Sharia. Some of the reasons why people are saying they no longer want to be in the union with others is that, these 12 states pass Sharia year 2000. And further down the line, we saw where they began to enforce it. Sani Yerima was governor in Zamfara. He began to chop off people's hands. And, you know, as he left the office of governor, he went to Egypt, I think it was 2012 or 13, to buy a 13-year-old girl in the name of marriage. And in all of it, this Sharia is a situation where, though the adherents of it say that they owe it a duty to their faith to kill the infidel. I'm telling you the story from the perspective of those who are saying they don't want to be in the union anymore. And whether you call them Avenger or Biafra or, you know, all the other, whatever names they adopt, they're just saying that this is a civilization that is feeding on our blood, quite apart from the matter of oil and gas. I'm taking the matter in perspective. And these 12 states went on to do things that dislocated people from other parts of the country in the territory. And a contiguous belt. It's not as if one is there, one is there. So that people from the other sides of the country had to dress back. In the middle belt, you see the killings going on in Plateau, in Benue, in Taraba, all of, you know, and now Boko Haram that came to enforce, because Boko Haram made only one demand when they came, just like Avenger has made one demand. Boko Haram said they didn't want democracy.
They don't want, no, they said they don't want Western education.
Yes, and they went further to say that they don't want, why they reject Western education is the democracy that comes with it, the constitutionalism that comes with it. They wanted Sharia, as you know, they say it's a way of life, and therefore they don't want to see anything that came from the West. And I have difficulty making a distinction between what Boko Haram, what the 12 state governments that passed Sharia set out to achieve, going by what the champion, Sani Yerima of the time, you know, did, both as governor and as senator, in chopping off people's hands in pursuit of Sharia, in going to get a 13-year-old girl in the name of Sharia, with that of Boko Haram, which in which you saw Shekau blowing up people's heads and hands all over the place in pursuit of Sharia, and going to Chibok, you know, you saw him advertising the girls they took from Chibok on CNN. If you were the only market, or myself, will Shekau find anybody to sell the girls to? No, but there's a Yerima that will buy from him. Therefore, we're talking about a fundamental clash of civilizations. And it is that has to be addressed. If we cannot agree on, you know, the sanctity of human life, for instance, and all the human rights that go with it, and then the democracy, there's also feudalism lurking in the background here. In their own civilization, everything should vest in the emir, who then gives to everybody else. That was how we came about the Land Use Act. That was how we came about all the things that have found their ways into our constitution. And how did we come about that constitution? Constitution is simply the agreement by which the Yoruba, that could be a country of 55 million people, will submit themselves into the union. At the time Lugard did it in 1914, there was no consultation. And from that time to now, we've been shouting, from independence to now, let us go and rearrange these things. Even the little modicum of discussion that took place before we got into independence as one country, you know, was toppled in 1966. And since that time, it has been a matter of master and servant. No different from apartheid. Apartheid in South Africa, in which the white minority owned everything and gave to all what they chose. The constitution we have in place was imposed by force of arms. And it has 68 items on the exclusive list that sees everybody's assets. The water in Lagos here belongs to Lagos people. Nigeria takes about 2 trillion every year from it. And from independence to